So the point I want to make is, instead of just writing dry bullets that are factually filled with information that doesn't have any context, write a leadership story about how you seized an opportunity, how you identified what you could do, and how you delivered the results. That's how you do that bullet. And people say, well, that takes too much space and I don't have enough room in the resume. My point is, just as what I said earlier, if you have the right message, you need very few resumes to send out. If you have the right leadership stories, you just need few stories to tell the reader how great a leader you are. And it doesn't need to be filled with meaningless bullets that anybody can write without any differentiation. And to me, that is meaningless. So you need to focus on what I call the aha stories. What is the aha in your bullet that grabs the reader and compels them to call you as soon as they read it, because there is intrigue in it, there is a steeping of leadership that shows, gosh, this person thinks differently, initiates things, and accomplishes things. And those are the kinds of leadership talent people are looking for in this down economy. We all have it. We just are too lazy to write it. I'm not saying only those who have it should write it. I'm saying everybody has it. You just need to reach out and see what you did, why you did it, and how to frame it so that there is enough intrigue for the reader to call you. And this is exactly the exercise I put my clients through, to extract the genius from your past work and put it in pithy terms that a reader will say, gosh, this is an amazing story. I need to talk to this person. And this is how it transforms your resume. And this is what makes it inductive. So when you anchor your tomorrow's objective to the stories, leadership stories, that fortify your claims or your skill sets, then you got a valid claim. And I always use the example of Barack Obama because it's probably the most stellar example of where the person completely separated his resume from his message. Because originally a year ago when he came out before the Iowa caucuses, people said there's no chance this guy can even run for this office because he's never been anybody, never written legislation, he never worked in the armed forces, doesn't have the executive experience, he's minority, he's done drugs, you name it, everything is against him. And so that was his resume. And he said, I'm going to separate myself from my resume and my message will stand alone. And he did. And he stayed steadfast to his message. And that's the point I want to make, that you need to figure out what your message is and separate that from your past. And once you're able to do that with this inductive resume, you can go in the direction that you want to go without any impediment. And this is not theory. I've done this 4,000 times. So this works. I've done it for myself, so I'm a living proof talking to you. The next one is education. I think you need to write only the relevant education and thing that supports your claims for how you do this job. Other accomplishments only if they are relevant. If you are a golf pro, or if you are a skiing champion, if you're a swimming champion, if it's not relevant to the career objective, don't put it down. It's irrelevant. So don't fill up your resume. Use that space for writing your leadership stories instead. So be very specific about how you contain your message and crisp brand by limiting what you have to say about yourself. Okay, so that's the design of a resume. It has evolved over the years, and every time people have done this, told me, my clients, that it completely transforms their view of who they are, about what they bring to the party. Because most resumes, in my mind, talk about what you've done in the past. This resume, inductive resume with this design, talks about who you are, which is very different from what you've done, and then what you can do as a result of what you claim to be your career objective. So this is a major shift in how you can verbalize your brand and how you can position yourself uniquely in the market that's crowded with Jurassic resumes. I call them Jurassic because they have been that way ever since. And so you need to get into this mindset of how can I project my verbal message, verbal brand that create excitement for somebody who's looking for doing different things tomorrow. And this is the algorithm for it. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Now, after the resume is done, even though you are working, let's say, and looking for a better position in your own company, or you are out looking and you want to start a campaign, my suggestion is identify first where the action is or can be. If it's within your own company, see areas that are growing, see areas that are creating exciting, customer-facing kind of outcomes, or see which companies are able to survive the downturn, or which companies are trying to make better of themselves. And there's always, if you research enough, you will find out. And it's those companies that you target. Then you create a segmented list, A, B, and C, and I'm very nuts about it because it's very important. People just collect a pool of companies and then define the website and just post their resumes and spray and pray kind of an approach. That does not work. So you need to create A, B, C, and in my first book, The 7 Keys to a Dream Job, I suggest making 10 A companies, list of 10 companies A, 25 B, and 100 C. 135 companies is where you start. And you slowly ramp up to that number from your day one after the resume is complete. And A companies is where you have great desire to work, or A jobs is the job that you want. So both company and the job define the A and the B and the C. And once you have that defined, then looking at the A targets, you research the company and you look at, are they hiring, are they letting go? It doesn't matter even if they're letting go. And in fact, in my first book, this is 2002 now, when everything was kind of going south in the valley, I had a client who had an idea that he thought Apple could really benefit from. And at that time, Apple was also laying off. Everybody was laying off at that time. So he wrote a letter to Steve Jobs at the time and sent it FedEx with this idea. It's a one-page, three-quarters of a page. It's in my book on page 295, 7 Keys to a Dream Job. And sent it FedEx, and within 2 days, Steve Jobs' secretary called his client and said, Mr. Jobs has seen your letter. He's very interested in talking to you. Can you please forward me your resume so that I can present it to Mr. Jobs? So, and this is a real story, and actually on that page, I have a little bit more notations about how this came about. So the point I want to make is it doesn't matter if the companies are hiring or not hiring. What matters is everybody is in pain, even though everything is going great for them. And the trick is to find that pain point and get their attention and show them how you can alleviate that pain. And it works in good times. It works in tough times. It always has worked. It's never failed. So I've gone through, since 2001, we've gone through an uptick starting 2004, and we approached this way. And now we've gone back into the downturn again. And even in this downturn, the same approach works. So the next one is to craft a message to grab their attention. So once you research the company's pain points or where do you think you can add value based on the skills you bring, you have to have a credible message that's aligned with what's the skills you bring. Then you need to send it, and my typical recommendation to my clients is send it, if it's an unsolicited message, I call it a prospect, where the job is not posted, but you figured out a way to get their attention. Send it at least 2 levels above the hiring manager. That way there's a good chance that that person will read it and forward it down a level or 2 and say, you need to talk to this guy, and then you will be talking to that guy, the hiring manager. This is how this thing works. And once again, I've said this before, separate your message from your resume, or separate your message from your history. This is what BHO is Barack Obama, our president in the U.S. This is exactly what he did. He separated his resume from his message, and he did that very well.